Welcome to the Ward 2 2003 City Council debate. I am Tony Shanella, the editor of Concord, New Hampshire Patch. Thank you for being with us. This debate is being sponsored by Patch, Concord TV, we're in their studios right now, and the New England Take podcast. For the next 30 minutes, you're going to learn more about the two ward candidates running. Ward 2 will have a new city councilor at the end of the election in November. They'll be elected for 2 years representing the ward. The candidates will be allowed a 1-minute opening and closing statement, and then I'll ask questions in between, and then they can answer them as well. Let's meet our two candidates in alphabetical order. We have Michelle Horn and Rob Kleiner. Rob, ladies first. Is that cool?
Great. Thank you.
Good. Michelle, opening statement.
My name is Michelle Horn, and I am running for Ward 2 City Councilor. I want to thank Tony and the Patch and Concord TV for having me, and also Rob for being here to debate me. I have been in Ward 2 for nearly 20 years and have happily raised my 3 daughters through the Merrimack Valley school system. My 2 youngest daughters are still in the high school. As a single mother, I bring diversity of lived experiences, both in my trade, socioeconomical status, parental status, and so much more that comes with being a working class female. I have 2 jobs, one as an office manager and member of the IBEW local union here in Concord, and also as an operations specialist at a software company. Over the years, I've dedicated substantial time to my community, whether it's being a treasurer for many years at the Pennacook Elementary PTO, or being a founding board member of a local charity, Hearts for Kindness. I was also chairperson for the Merrimack Valley Safe Routes to School Committee. I believe in volunteerism and civic engagement as a core value to really bring community together. As much as I truly appreciated my time on various boards, I honestly believe my time volunteering on the ground has been much more beneficial and has led me to this run as city councilor. I want to give back to my community at an even higher level, and I've been able to meet so many people from different and various backgrounds, and through all these interactions, I've fostered relationships that I think will really help me with people trusting me in this position.
Thank you, Michelle. My name is Rob Kleiner. Thank you, Tony, for having us here. Also, thank you to Concord TV, to Mike, and to Josh in the studio over there for having us here today. I really appreciate everyone, and to Michelle for being here. Really appreciate that. A little bit about myself. My name is Rob Kleiner. Live in Ward 2. I've lived in Ward 2 for about 15 years. I'm a Concord native. I've lived here my entire life, except for the first 6 months where I lived in Nashua. But the rest of the 45 years I've lived right here in Concord. I live in Pennacook with my wife, Holly, who is a nurse out at Merrimack County Nursing Home. We also have 2 children who go to Pennacook Elementary, Caitlin and Sophie, who are watching home. So hello, Caitlin and Sophie. They're 8 and 10. My day job is I am the operations manager at Northeast Delta Dental, where I oversee a few departments: customer service, provider services, our auditing department, as well as our eligibility department. Outside of that, I do a lot of volunteerism. I'm on a number of boards in the community. I serve on the boards for Kimball Jenkins, NHTI, Red River Theater, and Concord Coalition to End Homelessness. A lot of the service that I do in board service aligns with what my values and what I hold. For example, Concord Coalition to End Homelessness, I have a real passion for making sure that our homeless are housed. So I just want to thank everybody to letting us be here and to talk. So thank you, Tony.
Great. Let's actually talk about housing to start. It's been a major city issue for a long time, but there's also been progress too. There are rough back of the envelope estimates of about 3,000 units that are either scheduled or planned or being considered over the next 5 to 7 years. But for a popular city like Concord, where a lot of people are moving, that might not be enough. We'll start with Rob first. What more can you do in the next 2 years to tackle the housing problem?
Oh, certainly. So I agree with you of what you said. We have about a 0.3% vacancy rate in Concord right now for the housing that we need, or the housing that we have. Where we should really be is about 5%, depending on who you ask or what numbers you're looking at. What that means is we're between 2,000, 5,000 units shy of where we need to be just to sort of scratch the surface of having a healthy vacancy rate. What does that mean? If you don't have that vacancy rate, people can't find housing and they end up homeless, or they're stuck in a situation that they don't want to be in. They might be in an abusive relationship where they're stuck in a house and they can't move into an apartment. Right now, it takes about 8 months for you to find an apartment, even if you have perfect credit, no bankruptcies in your history. That's something that really impacts the citizens of our town. So the things that we can do to rectify that is make sure that we're not putting in place policies that make it that people cannot do developments in certain areas of the city.
Great.
I would agree on Rob. I think he was talking about zoning. I think the accessory dwelling units, things like that, we really need to change the zoning around that. It shouldn't be an act of Congress to put your ailing mother in your basement. We do need to make sure the housing that we're building is affordable. I deal with this at work, trying to entice people to come to our area to work for us, and they just simply can't afford to live here if they can even find a place to live. So I think definitely working on all the zoning. The permitting shouldn't be so much red tape for a building. We want to help reduce that so we can attract builders here for that as well.
Great. Crime has been an issue in Concord as well, but crimes by people who are homeless or unhoused, or whatever term you want to use, have exploded to the point where last year more than 20%, about 22% of all of the arrests were people who are homeless. Many of the charges were not just vagrancy charges or trespassing charges, but drug dealing, assault, arson, and even murder. Frustration has also been boiling over for a number of city residents due to camping on private property, cleanup costs for what are becoming small hazardous waste sites in some cases. Some of the camps have been described as such, and firefighters are fearful of going into them because they're booby-trapped and other issues such as that. In fairness to both of you, if you're elected, you're essentially volunteers. At the same time, the public is going to be calling you because there's a new camp on Bog Road or there's a new camp on Sewell's Falls Road. What more can the council do to address the crime problem? We'll go with Michelle first this time.
I think we need to address the homelessness issue in general. I think housing first is very important. If you look at our rental properties now, they're $1,600 to $2,000 a month. And if you do your typical math of spending 30% of your wages on rent, you'd have to make $34 an hour to get into an apartment here. And it's just not feasible that you're taking someone right out of being unhoused and they're going to get a job making $34 an hour. So that goes back to affordable housing, zoning, even if it went to some, zoning where you could have multiple people in units and things like that. I think as a council, they need to work on the steering committee they have to end homelessness, because it doesn't seem like they've done a lot of actionable items, even if they are meeting. We as a community haven't heard that they've actually done anything, and it would be nice if they redid the homelessness plan that they wrote, I think 10 years ago, because clearly that hasn't worked and it's time to update it.
Okay, so I'm just saying 15 seconds follow-up. So I really want to, we talked about housing in the first question, or the previous question. I really want to talk about the crime aspect of it. Do you have any initiatives or ideas on how you can deal with the constant whack-a-mole of people camping on private property, the fortresses that they're building around the city, human trafficking is going on. I mean, there's all kinds of other things. These aren't people who are living out of a car who lost their apartment because they were foreclosed or something like that. I mean, do you have any ideas on what you can do about that issue?
Well, I brought up the housing because it's important to get them out of, the woods of the community, and it's easier if they're in housing and tracking them and taking care of them that way. I think in any community, you're going to have career criminals, unfortunately, whether they're housed or not.
Okay, Rob?
Sure. So there's really two solutions to this. One is the housing that we've talked about. Getting more housing available will get more people housed. As I stated in my intro, I've been on the board of directors at Concord Coalition to End Homelessness, where it is our mission to end chronic homelessness in Concord. We will succeed at that. So that's the first part, getting people housed so that doesn't occur. The second piece that we need to make sure that we're addressing is our police force. Currently, if my number is correct, I think we have about 19 positions that are open with our police force. I believe 9 or 10 in our are going to school for cadet to become a police officer. So, we're still about 10 short. We just need to make sure that we're giving our police the resources that they need in order to hire and retain a workforce.
Real quick follow-up.
Sure.
Do you agree with Michelle that the homeless committee should revamp their mission statement or come up with different ideas? I mean, you're on that.
Well, there's two
Right.
different things. There's the Concord Coalition to End Homelessness, which is a nonprofit organization with Concord, and then there's also the committee to end homelessness that Concord has.
And which
that's
board
two
are you
separate.
on exactly?
I'm on Concord Coalition to End Homelessness.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
that's
they're
a
two
private
separate
board.
things,
Okay. All right.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Although we do have a member that is on, we have our executive director who is on that committee.
have you looked at the city's plan, and do you think it should be revamped in 10 seconds, 15 seconds?
A short answer to yes, it should be relooked at and revitalized.
Okay. This time we'll go with Rob for this question. Probably one of the most important issues facing the city and the council will be a lot of new faces after the November election. Mayor Jim Boulay is stepping down after more than a quarter of a century, and there'll be at least 4 new councilors. Either one of you may be one of them. There may be more than 4. If elected, Rob, how will you work to ensure stable council proceedings and governance, given this really kind of dynamic change that's going to happen?
Oh, sure. You're absolutely correct. We'll have some new faces. We'll have a new mayor. Mayor Boulet's done a fantastic job of running our city council meetings. I think one of the most important things is making sure that the new councilors meet with each other, meet each other for coffee, so that they know each other, so they know who they're working with, so they can reach across the table and have discussions about the things that are troubling our city. Also, just the certain things of like being familiar with Robert's Rules of Order and things of that nature. I got my copy out in my bag. I'm always prepared with that for any board meetings and whenever there's a question. So I think being prepared for those types of things will help.
Good. Michelle?
I would first like to recognize Mayor Boulay for a quarter of a century of serving the community. I think that's amazing, and he's done a great job. Over the past couple of weeks, it's been a whirlwind of meeting a lot of the current councilors as well as people that are running. And I can honestly say, I think that everyone is up for the challenge, and we're a resilient community, and I just don't see an issue with people working together from everyone that I've met.
Great. One of the strengths of the mayor and several councils now has been to keep the tax rate close to as 3% as possible. This year's tax rate was a little less than 4%. However, there's a huge solid waste contract that's on the horizon, threatening at least an annual tax rate increase of between 5 and 8% on top of the normal 3 and change. There will be potentially some personal savings with no longer having to pay as you throw bags, because the automated dump trucks won't be able to check the bags. However, at the same time, the property taxes are going to be a pretty high increase on already really high property taxes, the highest in the city's history, and also on renters who pay indirectly. What would you do to tackle this problem? And let's go with Michelle this time first.
I would say it's going to be education, educating all of the community members on recycling, definitely reducing waste, things like composting. If you look at, I believe around 30% of household waste is compostable, and I know that I do it in my home, and even with 3 children in my home, I have very limited trash. So being able to educate the community on ways that we can, as a community, reduce our waste is going to be the biggest hurdle.
I would agree with Michelle. Composting is really important. I also have a composting barrel in my backyard. I was in Leadership, New Hampshire this past year, where I graduated. I was a class of 23, best class ever, where I met a woman who runs the Northeast Resource Recovery Association. I think to Michelle's point, educating people about how to reduce trash, how to reuse, recycle, and compost is really important. It also made really great tomatoes this year for me and my wife and my family, so works out great.
Excellent. The Beaver Meadow Golf Course is not in your district, but it's nearby. It's right on the edge. Building a new golf house at the club has been a hot button issue this year. Some golfers want a new one, and some people think it's extravagant to just even own a golf course, even though it's the nation's oldest municipal golf course. Others think it's a great community asset. There's also a lot of studying going on with a memorial field as well with the school district. Some people look at the golf course as a recreational, no different than what goes on at the pools or anything else. At the same time, there is an expense to purchasing and building a new clubhouse. What are your feelings about the golf course and what you can do to make sure that it's, if it is built, that it's on time and on budget? We'll go with Rob first this time.
Sure. So as I said, I've lived in Concord all of my life, and I think it was about 7th grade or so. There was a program where students could go golf 9 holes, and I would go every week with my friend Dan Reardon to go golf at the 9 holes that we could do. We played with an old set that was busted, left out in the rain. It was all rusted, and the putter I think was from the 20s. But I always had a fun time doing that. I also enjoy going to Beaver Meadow now with my children because they have the free skating in the winter, which is fantastic to go and see all the people out there on the ice. We also do some snowshoeing, and they also have the largest pollinator gardens in the city. So it's a fantastic place. I see the clubhouse as an extension of another community center, much like what we have up on the Heights or maybe the skate house at White's Park. So I think it's a great thing to bring a little recreation to the Pennacook residents.
Cool.
I'm sorry. Was your question specifically how, if it was passed, how we would keep it on time and on budget?
Or any feelings about the clubhouse, whether there should be one?
Oh, okay.
Should the city even own a golf course? Should there be a new clubhouse? If they do build a new clubhouse, what will you do to ensure that it's on time and on budget?
Oh, I am a numbers person, and the clubhouse was brought up to me probably day 2 of announcing my run. So clearly it's important to some people. So I've asked a lot of questions because numbers are so important to me. I want to know how much of it is Concord community utilizing it as opposed to the communities outside of Concord. I've heard that they sometimes are losing money as the golf course, and sometimes they can give money back to the city if they have a good year. So I would like to know all those numbers before I could really make an informed decision. I am a proponent of anything that gets people outside and recreating, so I do love that part of it, and I love the cross-country skiing and all that, but I honestly want to know all the numbers before I could give an answer. If it did pass, I am, as a matter of fact, in a meeting today, my coworker called me tenacious because I am on the ball with keeping up on things, so I would definitely make sure whatever I had ability as a counselor, I would keep it on time and on budget.
Great. Let's go with Michelle with this question. Not having a city budget or worrying about, a potential 12% tax increase in a year or two. It's not all just about cutting or worrying about increases. Economic development has been a piece of the puzzle that we've worked well at in some cases and not well at others. But can you name 3 new ideas that you would bring to the council to increase the tax base?
I would like to see the economic development director or manager, the position that I think we had for a short time, come back, because I think somebody educated and really bringing in new businesses is important, and dedicating staff to that I think is very important. That will help raise the commercial tax base and hopefully take some of the taxes away from the homeowners. I think we should transform the underutilized or unutilized spaces such as the mall, and that helps the vibrancy of the community but also raises the commercial taxes again. And then I hate to go back to it, but housing, because it's so hard to get people to come here to work or to play when there just isn't a place for them to live. So having the affordable housing is just another key element to help get people here.
Sure. So, 3 things: create jobs, bring in business, and solve and reduce homelessness. it really all revolves around one thing, and that's the crisis that we have, and it is a crisis of housing. It's something that Concord really needs to solve. I know when I was looking for apartments in my 20s, which was 25 years ago, we still had the crisis then. To find an apartment as someone who was just graduating college, looking with a roommate, it took months to find an apartment. We really need to solve that problem. That way we can have businesses want to be here that will create jobs. And when the businesses are here, it will help increase the tax base.
Do you have any kind of ideas specifically about businesses?
Specific businesses?
I mean, retail is changing, so it's not like you might have a mom and pop or somebody, starts a business. They've always wanted to own a store, but.
Sure, I'd like to see more high tech in here. Some bigger businesses, some businesses with employee counts that are in the hundreds would be great.
Mm-hmm. Do you have 15 seconds? Do you have any specific ideas about business that you think that increasing business ideas?
I do not. That's why I want to see the economic development director who
Let them
would be
do it.
better versed at that than
They
me.
weren't able to do it before. No offense to her. She did work hard. Look, we're going to go with Rob on this one. There's been a discussion earlier this year about paying for childcare, stipends for attending meetings, and even travel expenses for city councilors, board members, and people who want to attend meetings. Obviously, there's a lot we can do as a city to not hold, say, the diversity committee's meeting at noon on a Friday. At the same time, it has been mentioned by some city councilors that the city should be responsible for paying for their child care. Sticking with just the councilors and not people coming to meetings. But do you think that it's time to increase the annual stipend so that city councilors who do have to deal with that issue have a little bit extra money to pay for child care? And if yes, how much should that be?
Sure, so simple answer, it's a $1,000 stipend. No, it shouldn't be increased for councilors. I think there could be some mechanisms that we could do to help encourage some creative ways to solve some of the other issues, but no, shouldn't be increased.
I think it's a sticky question when you're asking us as we're coming in, because it would seem self-serving to say yes, because I think none of us that are running for the money or need it, or we wouldn't be able to run. I think since it's essentially a volunteer position, the demographic that you get that runs is of a certain socioeconomic status, certain education status, and they can afford the resources and the time to come to not only the evening meetings, but things that happen during the day. And I think that I'm lucky to have 2 jobs where they value civic engagement and allow me to switch my schedule, that I'll be able to participate, but a lot of working class people can't do that. And I think if you raise the stipend, it would just open up so that more people could have a different voice in this position.
Great. Well, I want to thank you both. This was really great. You had a bunch of great answers, but we're up against the clock.
Oh, no.
It really does go fast when
It
you're doing it
does.
30 minutes. So we're going to do 1-minute closing statements. I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to wave my finger. You stop, okay? I didn't do that the first time. That's on me. No, I let you both go more, but that's okay. So, Rob, you're going to go first this time. Closing statement, please.
Oh, certainly. Thank you again so much, Tony, for having us here. Michelle, thank you for being here as well. And it's Concord TV. Concord TV is just amazing. If you have not looked at their YouTube channel, I watch every single thing that they put out, so it's just fantastic. But again, thank you so much, Rob Kleiner. Affordable housing, economic growth, environment, all of these things are important to me. Please show up November 7th and vote. It would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Again, my name is Michelle Horn. Thank you all for being here today. Aside from the community involvement that I mentioned in the opening, I'm also very operationally suited for the job. I'm intelligent, I'm resourceful, and I am tenacious, so I will get stuff done. I believe that our council needs to be accessible for all, not just those with the most money or the best education or the most connections. I come to this position with no previous connections to anyone currently in the city government or running in the city government. This means I am free from all allegiances and can help constituents make educated decisions. This is why my campaign slogan is Vote Michelle Horn to be a voice for our community, because that's exactly what I plan to do. Please show up on November 7th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at your wards. It's so important that you get to vote on the school board as well as the city councilors and the mayor this time.
You stole my minute, but that's okay. Election day is Tuesday, November 7th. Check out the Patch online voter guide, which will be up about a week before the election with all of the candidate profiles as well as all of our stories. Voters do cast ballots between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the barn at Bull Meadow on Bog Road for Ward 2. For Concord TV and the New England Take, I'm Tony Shanella. Thanks again for tuning in.